Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a student in BUS225 Business Ethics, you're in exactly the right place. This week, you're going to be sharing your case study drafts with your classmates, and you'll actually be conducting peer reviews on two other students' work. And let's be totally honest for a second. For a lot of folks, peer review is right up there with mandatory group projects as everyone's absolute least favorite part of school. But today, we're going to completely transform how you approach this. We're going to set you up to give feedback that actually matters, the kind of feedback that turns a pretty good case study into an absolutely great one. Okay, let's dive right into this. Does this look familiar? We've all seen this kind of feedback before, right? Honestly, maybe we've even been a little guilty of giving it ourselves. It's polite, sure. And hey, encouragement is always appreciated. But does this actually help a classmate improve their draft? Not at all. Comments like, great job, or I agree, are a super common trap. They do absolutely zero heavy lifting when it comes to strengthening the project. So today, we're going to fix this bad feedback problem once and for all. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1, the consultant mindset, 2, praise, question, suggestion, 3, evaluating the ethics case, 4, avoiding common review mistakes, and finally, number 5, a vital professional skill. All right, kicking things off with section 1, the consultant mindset. When you open up your classmate's draft, I want you to completely drop the idea that you are a grader. Your job isn't to evaluate them or criticize the person behind the screen. Instead, I want you to think of yourself as an editor or a professional consultant. Your one and only objective is to guide them and strengthen their project so they can submit the absolute strongest possible final version. And here's a little secret. The goal is improvement, not agreement. Being supportant doesn't mean you just blindly agree with everything they wrote. In fact, respectfully disagreeing, like maybe pointing out that a case might align way better with Chapter 8's focus on leadership rather than Chapter 6's marketing ethics, is incredibly valuable. It helps the author see their own work through a completely fresh set of eyes. So what does constructive feedback actually look like? Well, it rests on 4 main pillars. First, it has to be specific, so the author knows exactly what you're talking about without having to guess. Second, it must be respectful of the time and effort they've already invested. Third, it needs to be actionable, meaning it's something they can actually go and fix. And fourth, it has to stay entirely focused on improvement. Really good reviewers don't just point fingers at problems. They explain why something could be better, and then they actually offer concrete ideas to help fix it. Take a look at the difference here. Saying your ethical dilemma isn't very good is just, well, it's just criticism, right? It instantly makes people defensive. Now, contrast that with, I think the background is strong, but I'm not completely sure what decision the company had to make. You may want to emphasize the specific ethical choice executives faced. Do you see the shift there? The respectful wording encourages improvement instead of defensiveness. It pinpoints exactly where the confusion is and offers a super clear path forward. Moving right along to section 2, praise, question, suggestion. If you ever find yourself just staring at a blank text box, feeling totally stuck on what to say about a peer's draft, this 3-step method is a total lifesaver. The praise, question, suggestion framework makes sure your feedback is perfectly balanced. You start by identifying what worked well, then you ask questions to spark some deeper thinking, and you wrap up by offering practical suggestions they can take action on immediately. Let's break these down a bit more. Step 1 is all about highlighting a strength. And phrasing really matters here. You want to be genuine and skip those vague, generic compliments. Instead of a basic, great job, try out starters like, one thing that stood out to me was. For example, you might say, I thought your explanation of how Boeing's leadership responded made the ethical dilemma really easy to understand. Specific praise is vastly more meaningful because it tells the writer exactly what they are doing right so they know to keep doing it. Then we move into steps 2 and 3, asking questions and offering suggestions. These sentence starters you're seeing, they are absolute gold. Things like, have you considered what alternatives management had? Or, would it strengthen the case if you added a bit more context? Questions are just incredibly powerful because they gently guide the author without you just handing them the answers. And when you do offer suggestions, keep them highly practical. Tell them exactly what to improve. But, and this is key, do it without rewriting their work for them. All right, section 3, evaluating the ethics case. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the BUS225 assignment. This is literally the most crucial question you can ask when reviewing a draft. Is this truly an ethics case, or is it just a story about a business? A strong ethics case has genuine, palpable ethical tension. It presents a really difficult decision with competing values. So as you're reading, ask yourself, is there more than one reasonable course of action here? Does this dilemma actually involve competing responsibilities? If the answer is yes, they've got a fantastic foundation. Business ethics is, at the end of the day, all about people, and that means stakeholders. There is a massive breadth of groups who might be impacted by a company's decision. We're talking customers, employees, shareholders, even the local community. When you review a case, scan their list of stakeholders and constantly ask yourself, wait, is anyone missing here? A brilliant piece of feedback is simply saying something like, hey, the case discusses customers and executives, but I really wondered how the everyday employees were affected by this decision. You also really want to gauge if reasonable people could disagree. The best case studies aren't black and white, and they definitely don't feature a single mustache-twirling villain. If everyone reading it immediately agrees on the right answer, it's just not going to generate a very interesting discussion. Suggest that your peer explores those conflicting pressures. Were there intense financial pressures? Did legal requirements directly conflict with what was ethically expected? Did the shareholders demand one thing while the customers begged for another? Competing viewpoints are what create rich, engaging discussions. Let's talk research. A rock-solid case study needs rock-solid evidence. When evaluating research quality, you want to see highly credible sources, like scholarly journals, official government reports, legal documents, and direct company publications. Compare that to less credible sources, like random blogs, opinion pieces, anonymous websites, or Wikipedia. A variety of highly credible sources acts like an anchor for a strong case study. If you notice your classmate is leaning way too heavily on opinion blogs, just kindly suggest they swap a few out for some scholarly alternatives. And finally, a quick check on organization and APA formatting. Look, I know APA can be kind of intimidating, but deep breath, here's the good news. You absolutely do not need to be an APA expert. Your job is just to help them catch glaring issues before the instructor grades it. Just spot check things. Are the references alphabetized? Are they using hanging indents? Do the sections actually flow in a logical way? If you suggest something as simple as moving the company background to before the timeline just to make it easier to follow, you've just provided a massive, massive help to your classmate. That brings us to Section 4, Avoiding Common Review Mistakes. Being vague is a massive, massive trap. Take a look at this. You should add more. Well, more what exactly? More research, more stakeholders, more adjectives. Details matter. Now contrast that with the alternative. You could strengthen the timeline by adding more context before the ethical conflict. That is a brilliant piece of feedback because it tells the author exactly where to focus their energy for maximum impact. Let's do a rapid-fire rundown of 4 common pitfalls you absolutely want to dodge. First, only giving praise. As we've already established, it feels nice, but it doesn't help them grow. Second, only giving criticism. Saying your sources aren't very good without pointing them toward better ones just leaves the author feeling stuck. Third, rewriting someone else's work. Remember, peer review is not editing their paper for them. Your role is to guide, not to do the heavy lifting. And lastly, looking for perfection. Listen, nobody's draft is perfect during the peer review stage. That's the whole point. The goal here is progress, not perfection. And finally, Section 5, a vital professional skill. Let's zoom out for a second. What do business leaders, attorneys, accountants, and consultants all have in common? Every single one of them relies on peer review before publishing or submitting important work. Providing thoughtful, constructive feedback isn't just busy work. It's a daily reality in high-level professional environments. Learning to give, and honestly to receive, this kind of feedback is a massive career asset that extends far, far beyond the walls of this course. This is your opportunity to practice a real-world leadership skill in a safe environment. It all boils down to this. The most valuable feedback is feedback that helps someone improve. So as you open up those drafts this week, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. If you can't deliver honest, constructive feedback to a classmate right now, how are you going to guide a team in the real world when millions of dollars or people's livelihoods are actually on the line? Step up, think like a consultant, and help your peers build something truly exceptional.